In a better world, I wouldn't even be reviewing a Saints Row game. When dealing with a series where a random guy on the street becomes the leader of a gang, then the city, then the United States, and then the galaxy, I would be the one looking like an idiot for pointing out that it doesn't make any sense. Because reveling in the fact that it's a video game and no one really cares about consistency as long as they get to do something cool is the whole point. Comedy, even comedy that is set off with air quotes, is sort of immune to serious critique. Personally, I'm fine with the old tongue-in-cheek, even several tongues in the cheek, to the point where it becomes a degenerate fetish and makes your friends uncomfortable when you share it with them. But Saints Row has its tongue tucked deeply into one of its other orifices. With the success of Volition's GTA clone, and how little regard I had for their games, I stuck to keeping my low opinion of it to myself and telling children to keep away from it. Then Volition ran out of steam with the series after 4 games. Imagine that. Trying to top what you can get away with in each successive game eventually finds a ceiling, and attempted something of a spiritual successor of the core ideas with Agents of Mayhem. You could hide your valuables behind a stack of Agents of Mayhem's discs, and rest assured criminals would pass right by it. Open world games flopping is enough to destroy most studios, but Volition had enough reputation to throw a Hail Mary, and attempted to reboot Saints Row. Again, properly this time, with the right title. There's a French term for this sort of behavior. It begins with an F and ends with prat. Fucking desperate. I can't blame them for a reboot. Once you've gone into space, inside a computer simulation, ironically of a buggy open world game, and hell, all in the same game, there's no more sharks to jump. So the only path forward is back to where it began. Their previous brand had been to double down on the absurdist crude humor and relying on spectacle that GTA had left behind. Watching them try to rework their Dane Cook style of comedy is as uncomfortable as discovering Dane Cook married a woman in the same age group this game hopes to appeal to. Having come to the conclusion that their Gucci violence simulator wasn't sensitive enough to modern concerns. So now most of the raunchy humor is gone, and people simply swear more while mentioning something ironic about class and society. To quote the Zoomers this game is hoping to interest, sheesh. It's not unusual for a game to be delayed to keep it from launching near a more popular game. But in the case of Saints Row, I think its initial delay was so it wouldn't be one up this year by the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial when it comes to crazy shit you don't see coming entertainment. Even had Saints Row not been queued up for a glossary photo next to some obscure negative term that will be invented in the future, it would still be undone by the ungodly amount of bugs. To call the game unfinished is an understatement. I didn't even get past the terms agreement before the game crashed on me. My time with it was defined by the amount of occasions when I had to restart the game due to a soft lock. And despite how cartoonish Saints Row is meant to be, I don't believe the intention was to make the player feel like Wile E. Coyote in a world where the laws of physics are not only broken, but seem allied against him. Animation bugs, moon gravity, people in cars spawning and despawning right in front of you. All of the classics are here. The only time I ever laughed during the game was when an invisible man took part in a boardroom meeting. This is called a reboot, but the only thing they seem to have gotten around to rebooting were the plotting characters. They may have switched from a millennial cast as Zoomers, but that doesn't stop the gameplay from feeling ancient. The combat is stuck in that 2008 category, meaning you stand in the open while shooting at brain-dead enemies since the game is lacking any sense of cover mechanics. You have special moves you can pull off, but when I'm restricted to 4 at a time without going into a menu, and 2 of my special moves are tossing grenades at enemies, while 2 others are for healing, I didn't bother experimenting much. The only other way to recover during combat is with a takedown that restores a pathetic amount of health, then you have to wait for it to cool down before using again. And when the average enemy count is no less than a dozen bullet sponges, combat can feel like cutting down an oak tree with a weed whacker. Fights play out the same every time. Down the first 5 or 6 enemies, take down another to heal a bit, then abuse the invincibility frames of the dodge roll until I could either heal again or position myself better to pick off another enemy or 2. I got so fed up with it that whenever I could, I would just stay in a car and casually run down enemies since they were never once able to destroy my vehicle. I'm not even sure if they can. The only other gameplay is when you're being chased, whereupon you glue your back to the hood of the car and fire at enemy vehicles with infinite ammo, so if you brought an RPG along with you it becomes trivial. This guy runs a museum in town and wants to do business with the Saints since Marshall has proven unreliable. I just want to point out that this party is thrown late in the game after the Saints have stolen the Hummingbird Codex, so this man wants to do business with people in possession of his stolen property. So far this game is spending as much time on its smartphone as it can. Must be another of those points the marketing team said would resonate with Zoomers. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to laugh at the main character surviving 3 explosions, but all I could make was the resigned sigh you make when you're told the cancer has metastasized.
Come out with your hands up!
Nawali is in the cockpit and his hands are on the flight controls. Do you want to rethink that order? Who's piloting this VTOL now that Nawali has jumped out to fight me? I don't think it's possible for an out-of-control VTOL that's in the middle of crashing to fly perfectly through a winding canyon with no one at the controls and crash land back where it took off from.
There's supposed to be a bonus based on exceptional performance.
That's right. And if you had performed exceptionally, you would have seen a bonus.
So he doesn't get a bonus because of being rash. Did he actually receive his normal pay at least? Also, I thought that was the interview. You don't get bonuses for interviewing well. You don't even get paid.
Big, giant, sweaty, dangling horse testes just swinging in the goddamn breeze, knocking back and forth like a pair of motherfucking clappers in a giant horse flesh crotch bell.
I know a lot of other reviews of this game have showcased this scene as an example of how badly written the game is, but incoherently raging to yourself in a car about work is the most relatable and believable the game ever gets. It's still terrible, but everyone who's had a bad day on their way home has done exactly this. We just weren't main characters in a video game.
Oh, everything smells amazing, Kev.
You know what would make it smell even better?
Hey man, if you want a $300 waffle maker, you can buy it with the exposure the idols pay you in. Don't expect us to chip in.
I've told you before, the idols are trying to build a post-capitalist society where money is not a concept.
Yeah? Then why don't you go run off and join the commune?
Interesting choice to kill off the brand new characters in their introductory scene. The whole "we're relatable broke young people" setup doesn't work when those people are also contract killers and gang members. I'm fine with criminal action through financial desperation, but trying to make them relatable in this way once they start killing people just makes them look like entitled assholes who lack any sense of morals while at the same time reminding each other of how awesome and righteous they are. Honestly, I would cast these four as the villains in any other game.
It's the murder business. The fundamentals don't change, just the uniform.
I can tell you love it.
Okay. I don't have to love it. I have to pay my student loans.
Student loans? You're a PMC mercenary. What classes did you take in college? Also, you're a criminal who breaks every law you come across, but you care this much about your credit score. How's this for ironic comedy? Real-life debt forgiveness kind of upended their student loan debt backstory just as this game released.
This is true. Look, this is really not a big deal. We just knock off a payday loan place. No one gives a shit if people rob those bastards.
Are they being portrayed like Robin Hood and only robbing people they deem as bad, like payday loan offices and Republicans? I can't see this group as fighting for a better society when the reason they can't make rent is because two of them are gang members, one is a freshly employed mercenary, and the fourth listens to podcasts on being your own boss, and everyone treats him like an expert on starting a business.
You have a job now. You could actually just take the loan.
Eli, I don't do business with morally bankrupt companies.
You work for Marshall.
Shh, that's my line, and the main character doesn't have an argument against it. No masks are worn, and I'm pretty certain they would be caught on camera during the robbery.
Do I want to know what happened to the Panteros who stripped your car?
Sorry, Nina. Self-defense.
Fuck, I didn't want that to happen. Let's hope Sergio never finds out it was us.
Nina is perfectly fine with me killing members of her own gang while making my escape. Kevin is guilty of this as well, which should raise some trust issues, since later we found a new gang together and these two have shown nothing but disloyalty to their original crews. Yeah, I know this moment is meant to be absurd, but I can't not sin it. The only way I wouldn't sin it is if it was a repeatable thing that I could do in the game. Your next job for Marshall is to follow a Panteros convoy full of stolen antiquities and see where it goes. And somehow the leader of the Panteros was watching us hold this briefing at a random roadside, and despite knowing Marshall are onto his gang, he doesn't deviate from the plan at all. Most inconspicuous stakeout ever with this giant guy standing against the horizon next to his gang-affiliated monster truck. If Sergio can notice and nail a drone hundreds of feet up in the air with one shot while driving a monster truck over rough terrain, why not just shoot my character in the head and be done with it instead of trying to run us over? Sergio's monster truck crashes against this rock that is strung along the path that all the other large trucks in front of us somehow passed under. You know the imagination is running low when the game peaks in the first hour by ripping off Uncharted 2, a 12-year-old game, and Mad Max Fury Road. Why exactly would any of the gang cars you jump to keep driving along after you jump on their roof? Applying the brake would end this rampage pretty quickly. Apparently the Pantero's destination was this sheer cliff. Because the guy was driving right for it, it never altered its course accidentally toward it due to my attack.
You did good.
No, I didn't. You wanted to know where the convoy was headed. I don't believe the bottom of a canyon was the intended destination.
Gwen says you were responsible for retrieving the Hummingbird Codex.
The Hummingbird Codex is a special book that all the factions of the city want to get their hands on. It looks like a Hunger Games novel to me.
Well, after that little clusterfuck we had with the Panteros, you know, when my life was flashing before my eyes, I started thinking about early retirement.
Seems fair.
Took my bonus and savings and bought this empty lot. I'm fixing to open my own garage.
It isn't retirement if you're quitting your job to work another one. You just built this brand new garage. Why does it look old and run down? Are we afraid of upsetting the rim job community so much we had to substitute the name Jim Robs instead? Perhaps Volition felt their game sucking as much ass as it does was enough. Marshall's gala at the museum for the unveiling of the Hummingbird Codex has no chairs for all the rich patrons to sit down at. It's a standing event only for some reason.
Wealthy parasites of Santo Eliso.
The idols have come to save you from yourselves.
Both the Panteros and the idols show up to steal the Codex. The idols arrive second and give a grand speech like they're addressing someone important, but they all already left. It's only the rival Panteros gang members in this room now. This minigun is magazine fed rather than belt fed, which means it should be empty after firing it for precisely 1 second.
I don't understand.
Well, you were wasting time with her. The Idol stole the Codex and replaced it with a fake.
Why replace the codex with a fake that is really just your calling card? The point of a fake would be to lead Marshall into believing it wasn't stolen and call off a search. Your ass gets fired over the museum heist and you spend the next cutscene wallowing in misery over losing a job that you worked for a total of 3 days, never paid you, and you didn't seem to enjoy. I wonder if this is what the developers have been doing since they released the game, because I think some of you might soon be out of a job as well. Buck up, guys. Press X to defeat your depression.
For last, the Judas 3000. If Brutus had one of these bad boys, he wouldn't have needed the Senate to help stab Caesar.
Ironically, this ironic Judas knife you order becomes an ironic plot point later. How ironic.
But it looks like we missed one.
No. They're cool. They're with me.
If they're with you, then you get to kill them.
How exactly did two people from opposite gangs that seem to be at war with each other, along with a Marshall employee, end up rooming together?
Why are we at the hospital?
Because you don't have insurance.
I don't really care.
You would if you saw what they charge to fix a flesh wound.
You're criminals. Regulated financial debt is not your biggest concern.
Guys, we're really good at what we do. So why are we doing it for other people and not ourselves? I mean, you know how to start a business. Kev knows how to get attention. I'm a walking murder party. And Nina's best goddamn driver in the business.
If Eli knows how to start a business, why hasn't he yet? If Kevin is good at getting attention, whatever that means, shouldn't he be a successful influencer by now? And Nina being a good driver hardly matters since who the hell cares? I send games for rendering cats poorly.
I don't know, guys. What do you think?
I feel like there's a lot we're missing.
Yeah, there's a few things missing from your criminal empire checklist, mainly the crime you want to commit. Are you starting a gang or a tech startup? The plan here is to get the property developer to hand over the deed to the church by scaring him with dangerous stunts. Well, I'm sure drifting against traffic and doing ramps will get the blood pumping. Making a guy fear for his life while inside the same car with you is a touch harder, since you would be killing yourself in any accident, so he can assume at least some restraint on your part. GTA San Andreas did a mission exactly like this, only it strapped the guy to the hood of the car.
We need a name.
The Saints. We call ourselves the Saints.
I feel like the word saint is being thrown out like a superhero name. Originally, the 3rd Street Saints named their gang after the district they lived in. Does the word saint in Saints Row even mean anything in this reboot, other than they're based out of a Catholic church?
There's a bunch of cool collectibles around town that would look amazing in the church. All we have to do is find a thing we want, snap a picture, and boom. It'll just show up there.
Really? How does that work?
It works.
Yeah, but how?
It just works. Don't overthink it.
If you don't want me questioning how something works, don't mention it at all and try to lampshade it. That would be enough to make me shrug my shoulders and say, whatever, it's a video game. But yes, you can decorate your home by taking photos of things out in the world, and they simply appear there. The game threatens you with side content by locking the main story missions away until you perform a prerequisite amount of fun. If it's optional, leave it as optional. If it's fun, trust me to seek it out and do it without you holding the rest of the game behind your back and dancing away when I reach for it. I don't even want to play the main campaign.
Okay. Boot Hill is this live stream fight club kind of thing they do on the abandoned island out in the lake. This sick cat named Doc Ketchum runs the show.
Fight Club? More like murder circus.
We need to recruit more saints, right? Everyone in town with a criminal record watches this live stream.
Oh, he's right. I've seen Pantero streaming it. I just didn't know what it was called.
But it's crazy dangerous.
It's viral marketing.
To recruit gang members, the plan is to send you to an island where a battle royale match is held and streamed to the entire city. So you go there, kill dozens of people, and this convinces all the people watching the live stream to join a gang that wasn't even advertised during it. No one even knows who the Saints are yet, or that it's a gang, or who to call to join up.
One of our crews just pulled off an armored truck heist. They're splitting up the cash.
Stealing insured money, my favorite victimless crime.
This is an open world crime simulator, right? Stop making excuses for why what I'm doing isn't actually that bad. I'm fine with being a violent gang member in the video game. I'm not gonna feel remorse for robbing and killing an NPC.
Seems like cheating. Our crew does all the work and we sit back and collect money.
Who trained the crew?
We did.
And who has the crew's back if they screw up?
We do.
Exactly. We earned the right to sit back and collect money.
That sounds like capitalism to me, collecting the value of other people's labor. Actually, since this is a gang, you're even worse. You don't have payroll, days off, vacation, sick leave, or any benefits since you're a fucking street gang. Surrealism requires a bit more effort than having a group of murderous gang members play a children's board game. My love letters to serial killers have more surrealist humor than this.
I'm talking about what we're paying the crew.
You mean what we're not paying the crew?
Bullets and 401ks are expensive.
Our gang is so worried over treating gang members fairly. that they need to find a way to bring in more cash so they can be paid like proper employees. Even mentioning 401ks and insurance. Instead of doing regular crime like gangs do, their big plan is to start planning a train robbery that delivers money to all the banks. All the other sane members won't be earning their pay by pulling this off either. Just these four plus another person they plan to break out of prison to help them. This gang is fundamentally at odds with itself.
I'm gonna stay low to avoid detection.
Lady, it's a private prison, not a national border with radar detection. And you're flying a helicopter right over their watchtowers. I think they see you. You have to stealth your way through the prison by not getting close enough to a guard to recognize you since you wear your old marshal uniform as a disguise. If my character would have put on a helmet like all the other marshal mercs wear, even that wouldn't have been an issue. To free the Nawali, you had to shoot some computer servers in the control room and that does it. This maximum security prison goes out of control and opens every cell, including his, when its servers go down. Do you have any idea how often servers go down? This prison was also kind enough to provide a ramp to jump their wall during an escape.
Can I help you?
You just delivered packages to the old mission church? What happened to them?
One of your people took them. Some fella wearing pink.
Pink? The fucking idols. They stole our shit.
Why would an idol be right outside the Saints Church just to steal package deliveries?
Huh? The box is full of knives.
Oh, right. It's them knives Nina and I ordered off that infomercial.
You ordered those knives from your old address. How exactly did they get delivered to the church? And you clearly forgot about them, so don't tell me you changed the shipping.
Come to think of it, there should be way more boxes than this.
Now that you know the packages contain nothing but a bunch of knives you ordered while depressed, is there really any reason to track all of them down to get them back? These are not exactly important to you.
I thought you called me here because you wanted to prepare for the robbery.
Correct.
So we are planning the heist.
No.
Okay, I must admit, I'm confused. What are we doing?
Team building.
All the game's comedy boils down to having the gang members do ironic things you would never expect gang members to do, like play children's games or have team building exercises. This can actually work when done well. See everyone still memeing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where CJ and the gang go through a drive-thru. This game utterly fails at understanding why that scene is funny though. It's because gang members actually do get fast food, but you never actually think about that part of their lives. It's a realization that 90% of the time, a gang member's life would be just as ordinary and boring as everyone else's. The Nawali feels like a GTA protagonist meeting over-the-top parody criminals he's about to do missions for in this scene. It amazes me that Volition was self-aware enough to write Nawali confused by how dumb these characters are, yet somehow not self-aware enough to realize how dumb these characters are and make changes. The team building exercise just ends up being a lot of shooting and driving. I understand the idea of building team cohesion, but you really should get around to planning the train heist at some point. This is the second time in recent memory I've had to LARP in a video game. At least when Life is Strange True Colors did it, they changed the gameplay into an RPG. The LARP Eli has you go on still plays like Saints Row, so you shoot people with airsoft guns instead of real ones. Also, everyone speaks in fake old-timey English and the quests feel like European fantasy, but they do this while dressing like they're from Mad Max and LARPing with foam dart guns, so the presentation of it is all off.
For a game, you're really taking the fun out of it.
I was waiting for the game to start sitting itself. Man, I just bet all these people in the city-wide LARP just love being stationary guards outside buildings instead of doing fun quests like in all the other LARPs. I can see why this is so popular. Well, Kevin's phone screen didn't break, but the camera weirdly did. The idols placed Kevin on top of the Santo Eliso sign and planned to blow it up with him. And I think a lot of their own people, because I had to disarm bombs that were armed and ticking all the way up to the top, and the path there was full of idols. I just happen to have a wingsuit built into my sweatshirt. Kev, on the other hand, has no shirt on, so he doesn't have a wingsuit, yet he somehow gets down from the sign to the idol's mansion with me.
Fucking Banderos stole my fucking car!
And where exactly did they steal your car from? I assume once you left the Panteros and took the church, you would have moved your car here instead of leaving it parked in front of your old apartment.
How are we gonna get inside the Scorpion factory?
I'm fixing to liberate a helicopter from the aerial gun range.
The what now?
It's a tourist thing. They rent out helicopters with machine gun turrets, then fly them over the desert and shoot, I don't know, whatever's out there to shoot.
This is the world of Saints Row, so I'm supposed to accept the fact that tourist attack helicopters are a thing, and that my character knows how to pilot one with zero training in order to rain hell down on the Panteros base where all their cars are, which is also defended by anti-air rockets and its own helicopters. That's just too much of a stretch for me to believe all of that. This reboot isn't even as off the rails as the previous Saints Row games to give it that level of slack.
What's this?
Crash test track.
You mean exit plan? Can you get that car working?
Why would the Panteros have a crash test track? Are they concerned with consumer safety?
Before we go?
Do you honestly think this Judas knife thing is worth it? Most people playing this game are not even going to recall what the commercial called it. I see why the only preparation for this train robbery was a team building day, because the plan is simply to drive up behind it, board it, then fight your way past dozens of marshal soldiers and turrets to the head of the train. I guess derailing it never occurred to them, but in the end that's what happens anyways and it works just fine. Sergio landing was enough to put my character out of commission just so the Nawali could come in for the save. I'll remind you that the first thing that happened in this game was the main character being pinballed by 3 rapid explosions, but the force of a large man landing near him takes him out for a full minute. The only thing that Nawali does on the train mission is keep you from having to boss fight the leader of the Panteros. Given this game's idea of a boss fight, I almost took a sin off for this instead. After all that fighting, it's proven pointless and the train derails. This armored train that was over a mile long and protected by air support was only carrying a few duffel bags full of a few gold bars and some cash. First, you wouldn't store a bunch of gold bars in a duffel bag since gold is heavy and would rip right through them after just a few, and you certainly wouldn't store them inside along with the cash. Second, banks rarely transfer gold bars from their locations. They leave them in secure storage and transfer the titles to the gold. And third, my character just walked in carrying 2 duffel bags full of gold bars and tossed them around like nothing. Each one of those bags would weigh several hundred pounds. A single gold bar is the Nawali's payment. That's anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000. I don't blame him for trying to kill you later.
Okay. We got the name, we got the space, we got the logo, we got the employees.
And we got the fucking money. Yeah!
Which means there's one thing left to do. How do we make a statement?
Make a statement? You're a criminal gang. Your job is to kill people and sell their children drugs. Do you see the Mexican cartels holding TED Talks?
Well, we just robbed a money train and killed Sergio in a particularly horrific fashion.
Oh, so you ripped out Sergio's heart.
I was there for moral support.
It doesn't matter, because word on the street is that the Nawali was a one-man wrecking crew. The Saints didn't get any shine from the heist.
The Nawali killed 1 guy during the train robbery, and the 4 of you were the only other ones there present for it. So how did everyone come to that conclusion?
So, we're gonna need something that establishes us as an institution.
We steal the Hummingbird Codex. Marshall wanted to protect it. Panteros and the Idols wanted to steal it. And if it wasn't for that fucking book, we wouldn't have formed the Saints.
Did stealing the Hummingbird Codex make the Panteros or the Idols an institution? What does that even mean in the context of a street gang? I honestly feel like the devs are just throwing buzzwords around. Ironically, this kind of talk would have made way more sense in the previous Saints Row game where you become the president of the US. The codex inside the boathouse is another fake that the Idols immediately give away as being fake instead of letting us believe we just took the original from them. I don't think they understand the purpose of faking antiquities.
Dude, did you just say AF?
Yeah, it's an abbreviation.
First, we fucking swear all the time. Second, it's only an abbreviation when you text. AF. As fuck.
Look, let's just be thankful the game didn't bombard us for explanations of on God and no cap. The real codex is on the Idol's yacht in the harbor, inside another glass case that's booby-trapped with a bomb. So the plan becomes to use the Idol's own bomb to somehow blow up the ship by planting it on the bridge. That little pipe bomb wouldn't even put a hole in the hull, let alone blow it up from the bridge.
It belongs to anyone who dreams of making something of themselves and are fucking tired of the world trying to hold them back.
You're not Fight Club and you never will be.
Life is hard enough without having to deal with middle managers with no discernible talent telling you how to do your job. Without having to deal with assholes who've had every opportunity handed to them, but never had to fucking work for a single one of them.
Because everyone knows how unstressful a life gang members have. What in the actual good hell is their message here?
Chet Drummond, Marshall General Counsel. The Saints are now a wholly owned subsidiary of Marshall Defense Industries.
No.
The employment agreement you signed when we hired you contained a non-compete clause.
I signed a lot of shit. I didn't actually read it.
Not our problem. By attacking Marshall interests, to wit, the Frontier Prison, our cargo train, and various other assets, you became a competitor.
So, what's your fucking point?
Pursuant to Article 9, Section 12, Paragraph 36A, you have surrendered all rights and ownership of the Saints to us.
Non-compete clauses are voided upon termination of a contract by firing. They exist only to make sure an employee doesn't use their position to find a better job and then quit while taking other employees with them to a competing business. Also, the Saints are a gang. They're not a licensed business. You can't legally own a gang, and no corporation would ever want to own a gang. How would you even enforce this? Is Marshall expecting the gang members to follow their orders? Nor does Marshall kick them out of the church or even take the codex back from them. The next part of the game is about getting the rights of the Saints back, even though it makes no sense at all. So you have to abide by the rules of this stupid contract, but you can murder the lawyer who presented you with the papers.
I'm gonna fucking kill Atticus.
Saw that coming.
But that won't solve our problem.
It'll solve my anger.
This is a binding legal document. You can't just shoot your way through it.
Why are these people selectively following some laws but disregarding others? So the plan is to storm Marshall HQ, kill Atticus, and this will somehow nullify the contract that gives Marshall ownership of the Saints. This isn't how contracts are nullified, as Eli explained after you shot the lawyer.
You go in. Shoot whomever you like. I'll rehire. Destroy the whole fucking building. I'll rebuild.
Atticus is saying this while I'm shooting all of his people who can clearly hear their boss calling them all replaceable. How's that for their motivation?
But you help me vote him off the board, and I'll scratch your back real good.
So, how do we do that?
If you make Atticus look bad enough, our company's stock price will tank. Shareholders will panic, and the board will have no choice but to change leadership. That's when I'll take over and give the Saints back to you.
Well, he just bought a violent street gang that attacked the company's HQ and killed a lot of employees inside of it. I think that would lower the stock price and make the board question his leadership. Instead, Myra's plan is to have you hijack a Marshall tank and shoot up a public expo Atticus will be attending, so only terrorism can lower their stock price. If it's an AI-driven tank, how come I can get inside it and control it?
All opposed? You have a tie. Now what are you gonna do?
Let's ask the tiebreaker.
The board vote ends in a tie, so Mira gives you the decision to either kill or fire Atticus. Firing Atticus makes no sense because you're not on Marshall's board of directors and have no power to vote, and killing Atticus in front of the board would raise questions about everything that resulted in this act of terrorism, which wouldn't leave the board very trusting of Mira as the new CEO. During the party the game began on, Nawali stabs you with the Judas knife you gave him because he wants your friends for himself. The game has to pretend that its cast is so amazing that even the villain is jealous and wants to hang out with them. Nawali is a professional killer. Why would he non-fatally stab me, then bury me while very much still alive? Did Nawali pre-dig this grave in the Saints' own church? No one noticed that? While buried alive, you have a dream where you play the children's petting zoo game with your friends from the perspective of a board piece. I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to take away from this, other than these four were friends and played games together. So don't die yet.
Okay, I'm here.
If you'd been there at the Idols party, I wouldn't have gotten shot.
You let your friends get hurt because you were wallowing in your own self-pity.
This game has presented my character as a supportive friend, but in my own head I'm supposed to be racked with self-doubt and pity. You dig your way out of the grave after having spent a few hours buried alive and unable to breathe, even redigging the grave perfectly just like it was when Nawali threw you in there. 4 straight sides of that baby. Also, that stab wound is completely forgotten about. Nawali has taken your friend so he can live out a sitcom life with him on a set. I don't believe the game is self-aware enough to realize that every scene with him already felt like a sitcom comedy. You could have added a laugh track to those scenes and it would have felt right at home.
You're gonna say you can't tell me because the Nawali will kill you, then I'll say, if you don't tell me, I'll kill you. And we're just gonna be right back to where we started, so let's just skip that part.
No, I was gonna say I can put the address in your phone.
I don't think this is so much a misconception as it is an excuse. You are pointing a gun at him.
Let's see if my biometrics still work on this VTOL.
If you need biometrics that are in Marshall's system to operate their equipment like the VTOL, how did Nawali fly it at the start of the game? The VTOL that crashed after I kicked a gun into its intake is still here, and works perfectly despite the crash and months of exposure.
What's going on?
It's for your own safety. It's our roommate, isn't it?
You can tell they're such good friends because they don't know his name and refer to him as roommate. You know that Nawali is a massive threat. Put a bullet in him while he's down. Of course you don't, despite the game always going on about how good you are at murder. I'm not sure where Nawali got an attack chopper from, since I flew all around this building a few minutes ago and spotted none except for the ones I shot down. He also stocked his top floor with hundreds of rocket launchers. I understand the reason why you would go for a western showdown given the setting, but why does my character fan the back of a semi-automatic like he's fanning the hammer of a revolver? Where was his efficiency 5 minutes ago when you got the drop on him? If you ever want to measure how much you truly despise someone, go to karaoke with them.
Big, giant, sweaty, dangling horse testes just swinging in the goddamn breeze, knocking back and forth like a pair of motherfucking clappers in a giant horse flesh crotch bell.